This last section of the time period 2000 to 2010 is going to focus on menswear. Menswear is like there's a huge transformation that occurs in the 21st century in menswear, and it's been building up for a while. It starts with all of the street styles, and then the urban wear that we see, influenced by hip hop. That we see it in the 70s, 80s, 90s, but it's going to really filter and filter into a lot of different areas and really blow up menswear in a big way. So, arguably, the three most important 21st century, early 21st century designers for menswear would be Rafe Simmons, Hedi Slimane, and Tom Brown. So, Rafe is really pretty much self taught. He's a photographer, he's really big into music. He launches his own line in 1995. And you're looking at these pieces and you're like, yeah, I've seen that in the avant-garde, but I just want to remind you that this is like 20 years old already. So he combines sort of subcultural ideas with sort of prep school and mod looks, actually, from the 60s. And you see this sort of post-apocalyptic flavor here because these were made just after 9/11. So in these two Raf Simmons shots, you can see directly subcultural styles, like the camo trend on the left with Kanye, silk screened over with messages, and on the right, also silk screened over these fishtail parkas that are a direct reference to mods from the 1960s. What's also interesting about Rafe Simmons is that he goes on to design for the label Jill Sanders, becomes director of women's wear at Dior, and then Calvin Klein, and now Celine. So he's had this really long lived career, and he's doing what a lot of new contemporary designers do. They jump from design house to design house. Hedi Slimane is also a very important early 21st century designer who's continuing to this day. He's very interested in photography at a young age and music as well. He studies art history. He's an apprentice for a men's designer a design house. And in 1996, he's asked by Pierre Berger, Yves Saint Laurent's partner, to design men's ready-to-wear collection. Hedi's work experience overlaps two houses, the House of Dior and Yves Saint Laurent. So in 2000, he starts designing for Dior Homme, and you can see here the contrast between what was happening in 1997 and what a throwback it was to the 1980s with the gigantic, oversized shoulders and the sleek, really narrowed down silhouette, very sophisticated silhouette that he presents in 2001. So it's interesting to look at how his work for these two major design houses overlap, because he's a big fan of rock and roll stars and sort of ultra cool rock looks, like by people like Richard Hell and David Bowie. And you can see that showing up in his work for both houses. He's really ultimately wants to be a rock and roll star. Would be his greatest achievement. And you can also see a lot of what Yves Saint Laurent did for Dior way back in the 50s. Remember, he was paying attention to the cool kids on the left bank, which got him fired from Dior. So there's a big flavor of that, like reinvigorating these older houses. So Tom Brown is very important for American menswear. He starts off as an Armani salesman, and then he works for the design and merchandising team at Club Monaco. He starts his own line in 2001, and he has later a Brooks Brothers partnership. But what his claim to fame is and what his signature look is playing with the men's three-piece suit, that traditional suit. And traditionally, three-piece men's suit, you know, they were supposed to cover the top of your shoe, and there was supposed to be just a perfect kind of crease there. And a lot of men in the 50s and 60s wore garter belts underneath their pants to hold up their socks, for example. The cuff was supposed to definitely cover your wrist, at least with the cuff of your shirt, and your shirt sleeve shouldn't stick out. And so what he does, Tom Brown, in a very revolutionary fashion, is play with all of those proportions. Oh, I'm going to shrink the suit. I'm going to shrink the blazer part of the suit. I'm going to raise up the arm length. I'm going to show a cuff in a really obnoxious contrasting plaid. I'm going to shorten the pant cuff so that the ankle is revealed. So this is a very radical move for menswear. So if you're in Midtown and you're looking at design, people in the design world, you'll see plenty of men these days that are wearing suits with, you know, these shortened bottom cuffs, maybe not as short as the one on the left that we're looking at, but no socks, and or you know, socks that you can't see. Sometimes Tom Brown experiments, like in a way you see on the right, that you know, for me isn't terribly successful, but it sort of harkens back to young boys like in breeches from the past. And I just love that he's experimenting with the suit and pushing it beyond where it's gone before. So last but not least, Rick Owens. He studies fashion design. He ends up dropping out, and he goes and continues studying fashion at a trade school, learning all the tricks of the trade. And in 1994, he launches his label. So he's out there. He's been out there for a while. He makes these really sculptural pieces and kind of reductive color, but beautiful draping, and really, he's really thinking and reconceptualizing also like what clothing is for men. And he had no problem putting men in what we call skirts.